your cell phones, we'd very much appreciate that, so thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the new head coach of Cowboy Wrestling, David Taylor. What a great turnout. Welcome, everyone. You know, just 25 days ago, we were in this very spot paying tribute to a 6-time world champion and legendary coach. Today, we welcome into the OSU family a 4-time world champion. It's good to be us, you know it? David Taylor is your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. He's who the next generation of wrestlers try to emulate. If John Smith is the all-time face of American wrestling, then David Taylor is the modern-day torchbearer. Coach, I hope you know this is just the first of many great days to be a Cowboy, all right, that you're going to experience. So we're so glad you're here. Our new head coach is known as the Magic Man. So let me introduce the man who made the magic happen, our athletic director, Chad Weiberg.
Thank you, Larry. Unfortunately, I have to have readers these days. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. Sorry we had a little bit of a adjustment that had to be made in the timing of it, but grateful that you stuck with us and that you're here this morning. And really want to especially thank the current members of the Cowboy Wrestling team for being here. All you guys over here, great to see you. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your patience as we've worked through this. I'd like to also thank, I see a number of former Cowboy wrestlers here in the room, so I'd like to thank all of them as well for being here. I'd also like to start out this morning by thanking John Smith, again, for his nearly 4 decades of service to Cowboy Wrestling. He will forever be a legend of Cowboy Wrestling. Thank you, Coach. I'd also like to thank Coleman Scott, along with Chris Perry, Tyler Caldwell, and Gary Wayne Harding, for how they have represented Cowboy Wrestling during their time here, and for their work with the team, and especially for their leadership over the last few weeks since John's retirement. It was important to take time to celebrate John Smith and all he has done for Cowboy Wrestling, which we did. Then as I started to think about the future of the program, I felt a huge sense of responsibility with this decision. We obviously had a very good option here, and I felt good about that. This job has not been open in over 3 decades and only 8 times in its history. So I knew we needed to go through the process of doing the due diligence it deserved, and I was transparent about it. As I said in the news release, with 34 national championships, the Oklahoma State wrestling program is the most successful in the country, regardless of sport. There should be no expectation of this program that can be too high or that is unattainable. We just had to make sure we did everything we could to find the next great leader. And so we began the process that has led us here. I appreciate those most closely involved with me through it. I'm grateful for the support from Reed Sigmund, our Deputy AD, and Tony Petro, our Associate AD for Business and the Sport Administrator for Wrestling. I'd also like to thank Kyle Bowlesby of Bowlesby Sports Advisors. I've known Kyle's love for and knowledge of wrestling and appreciated his assistance, including helping us make the connections we needed as we went through the process. In addition, I appreciate the support of Joe Hall, the chair of the Board of Regents and a great supporter of cowboy wrestling, and the advice and counsel he provided. I think Regent Hall is here today, although I can't see with the light. Now, thank you, Regent Hall, for being here. And I want to thank Chad Richardson. As most of you know, Chad is the founder and CEO of Paycom, headquartered right here in Oklahoma. Chad wrestled on the first state championship team at Tuttle High School, and now they have 18, and went on to attend the University of Central Oklahoma. He is passionate about wrestling in Oklahoma at all levels of the sport, youth, high school, all levels of college, and beyond. He has supported John Smith in cowboy wrestling significantly through the years, so I knew I wanted Chad's involvement as well, and he graciously agreed. Chad is here with his wife, Cheris, who is an OSU alum. Thank you for being here. As you can imagine, Chad is very busy leading a large company, but I'm grateful for him being willing to join us in the process, being exceedingly generous with his time and his counsel, for providing his plane to get us where we needed to be, and for the contributions to our program he has made that put us in a position to hire the best leader and coach for cowboy wrestling. Again, as I said in the press release, we are allowed to have the expectations we have for this program only because of the elite support we have. While there are many others to thank, and we will, Chad embodies the commitment that is necessary if you want to be great. It isn't a one-time thing. It has to be ongoing. So thank you, Chad, for your support that you've provided, for your commitment to the future of cowboy wrestling, and for the sport of wrestling in Oklahoma. And finally, I want to thank President Schrum. We are fortunate to have a president that supports athletics and believes in the value that it brings to her vision and strategic plan for the university. Plus, as a former athlete herself, she is competitive and wants to win. President Schrum had other obligations this morning. We're getting ready for graduation, a number of things going on, and she couldn't be here, but we are joined by her husband, Darren Schrum. So thank you, Darren, for being here. As I told the team, sometimes in life, whether personally or professionally, the hardest decisions to make come when you have several great options, but then you can only pick one. And because this is cowboy wrestling and everything that it represents, we had a lot of interest in this position with what I thought were a lot of great options. But one of the names I kept hearing was David Taylor. And of course, if you follow wrestling at all, you know about David Taylor and his impressive resume, which we will get into shortly. But David was still training for the then upcoming Olympic trials, so he didn't seem like he would be an option anytime soon. And while most of the wrestling world was at the Olympic trials, our process paused. During that pause, the unexpected happened. I was able to talk with David within the next few days, and then we visited David and Kendra in Pennsylvania shortly after that. Through those conversations, we learned about David and what his vision would be for cowboy wrestling. David's path to this point is very similar to his predecessor, John Smith. Like John, when he took over cowboy wrestling, this is David's first college coaching job. But also like John, David is a winner. With an Olympic gold medal and 4 world championships, David is among the greatest American wrestlers of all time. During his time at Penn State, he was a 2-time recipient of the Hodge Trophy, which is the wrestling equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. Only 5 others have won it multiple times. He won 2 individual national championships and was a 4-time NCAA finalist. But he didn't just win, he dominated. David's collegiate record was 134-3, and of his 134 wins, 121 came with bonus points. He led Penn State to NCAA team titles in each of his 4 years as a wrestler, the first of which was the first for the Nittany Lions in nearly 60 years, and was at the very core of launching the Penn State wrestling program to the top of the sport. He was a first-team academic All-American. And during his prep days in Ohio, Taylor won the prestigious Dave Schultz High School Excellence Award, which is based equally on outstanding wrestling success, scholastic achievement, and citizenship or community service. Again, he is a winner. In high school, he was 180-2. In college, he was 134-3. Against the very best in the world in senior level freestyle competition, he is 152-21. Beyond the mat, first and foremost, he is a son, husband, and father, and I'll let him introduce his family that is here with us today. He's an entrepreneur, a businessman, a creative thinker, and a problem solver, a hard worker and relentless competitor, a community builder. He will bring a fresh set of eyes to this historic program and at the same time be a fit for the Cowboy family. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you the 8th head coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboy Wrestling Program, David Taylor.
Wow. I mean, I think right away, just looking in here, there's more people here than there is the World Championships. So, that just speaks volumes to what this program means to everybody. And I think, really right off the bat, my dad, I want to thank my dad. As a young kid, he was just wanted to make the best for me. He didn't really know what that meant. He just knew it meant to get me out of my comfort zone. We lived in Wyoming. I was a cowboy, right? Rode horses and tried to stay on steers, but I fell off most of the time, but I got right back up. And that was the principles that my dad taught me. And it's honest. I look at him right here, and it just like many of the kids here in the future, the kids on the team and the future kids are going to come to Oklahoma State, family is an extremely important value. And I wouldn't be here without my dad. My mom, Kathy, right there, same thing. I mean, we were on the road all the time, and we were going to competitions and trying to do whatever we possibly could to seek out the best, because that's ultimately what I always wanted to do, is I wanted to be the best. And that family dynamic was what started all of this when I first started wrestling when I was 5 years old, which led me to meet my wife, Kendra. We wrestled each other when we were 10 years old. Funny story, when I woke up that morning, I had my very first ever back spasm. I couldn't even tie my shoes. And I'm looking at my dad, I'm like, what am I going to do? We're at the Reno World Championships. Obviously the Roller family had the Tulsa Series, the Cliff King Kickoff, the Reno World Championships. Those, when you're 10 years old, those are the World Championships. That's an important thing. I woke up, couldn't even tie my shoes, and I got wrestled as a beast. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? How am I going to win this match? But I pinned her. So at that point, I realized I had two choices. I win this match or I go home. And I found a way to get it done. But, we later down the road, we reconnected. My wife is extremely, extremely important in every decision that I make. And this has been a tough decision. It's been a tough decision. But my wife and my youngest daughter, Birdie, is right here. My two others, London and Ivy, they're at home. You guys are going to love them. They're full of energy. They'll tell you what their names are. They're going to be excited to meet you guys. I told them that we might be moving for a new house. And they said, well, we're going to have some horses. And I was like, I guess we could probably get some horses. I mean, there's probably some people around here that can help us with that. If there's anywhere that can help us, it's down here in Oklahoma. So they're excited. But, the family dynamic is extremely important, and it's an important value that we want to instill in the current wrestlers and the future wrestlers of this program. That's one thing when I walked in yesterday and I addressed the team and we talked to them, and it's a tough situation, very tough situation, and I felt like I could relate to it. You know, when I was a senior in high school, I was going to Iowa State, and back then, you know, it was a little different. And, you know, Coach Cale Sanderson took the job at Penn State, and I was in a kind of a weird limbo. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt like I wanted to follow him, but I wasn't sure, and I had to wait for the new coach to come in to let me kind of figure out what was going to be next, you know, in my career. And Coach Kevin Jackson got the job, and he allowed me to, you know, pursue what was in my heart, and I feel like that was a decision that really changed wrestling. And I feel like I can understand to a little bit of what these guys have been going through. I can't 100%. You know, it's a tough situation. But what I realized when I talked to them yesterday is it looked like family. These kids look like they really care about each other, and which is awesome. And we're going to continue to build on that, and we're going to continue building that moving forward. We want people to come to Oklahoma State because they want to come to Oklahoma State. You want to wrestle at Oklahoma State. You want to win national championships at Oklahoma State. We want team championships at Oklahoma State. And we want to stay and win world and Olympic gold medals at Oklahoma State. And I think that's what makes this place special. The administration, when we met with the administration, with Chad and Reed and Chad Richardson, you know, obviously a huge supporter, as Chad had talked about, it was just the genuine passion. That was the word that I just kept coming back to. You know, I was talking, I'm like, man, what was it like? I'm like, it's just genuine passion. How many athletic departments love wrestling like these guys love wrestling? Not many, if any. And you need that. We need that to be successful. And that's something that's special. They're going to pour into this program, and they're going to give us the resources to be successful. You know, Coach Smith, a complete legend. I mean, I can't even call him John Smith. He's a coach. You know, he's never even coached me before, but that's the kind of aura that he has. And to be able to be honored to even be considered in this situation, you know, to follow somebody. And this job hasn't been available for 33 years. You know, he's the greatest American wrestler that we've ever seen. So just, Coach, thank you for everything that you've done, the impact you've had in the wrestling community, the impact you had on me. You know, you set the bar high of you know, wrestling, coaching. And I'm very, very excited for this opportunity. I'm not going to take it lightly. Just want to say thank you. Yeah, thank you. You know, I think right off the bat, you know, I realized this is a tough challenge. It's a tough challenge, and to be honest with you guys, it is the most uncomfortable decision I've ever made. But just like training, just like when I was a kid, the best results come from being uncomfortable, and I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose in anything that I do, and I'm very excited for what's ahead. But right off the bat, you know, you want to surround myself with people that believe in what we're trying to do. And my brother-in-law, Jimmy Kennedy, and we announced him as associate head coach. You know, as a guy that's going to be with us, going to be pouring into these kids. Thomas Gilman, you know, Thomas and I we just finished our competition career. And what I like about these guys is, I mean, their character is the highest that I know. And just from being around them, they're people that are selfless. And I think to be a great coach, you have to serve your athletes, you know, and they're willing to do that. They help me understand that. And that's something that's going to be really exciting. And I think when building a staff, it's important to have coaches that are going to wrestle with the guys, because I think that's super important. I think it's important for these guys and for the future recruits. You know, we're going to wrestle, and we're going to help you guys understand like what it feels like to be the best in the world, what it feels like to be the best in the country, and we're going to help them the best of our ability, and that's exciting. You know, there's a lot of other things that go into coaching. I learned those in the last couple of days. There's a lot of other things. But it's just all part of that challenge. And I think that's where you're trying to surround yourself with people that believe in that same vision. And that's definitely really exciting. So when I kind of go back to Oklahoma State, I kind of talked about it a little bit. You know, I was a young kid. I was coming down. Very first time I came down to Oklahoma to wrestle in the Cliff King kickoff. I think what was it 8 years old? Sound right? 8 years old. I started winning the regional stuff in Wyoming, and it's like, all right, well, you want to challenge yourself, you got to get down to Oklahoma. You got to see where you are. And it was one of those things where if you don't make weight, you don't wrestle, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know. I weigh 55 pounds. I'll go 58. I get down there. I'm wrestling 58. These kids are weighing like 67 pounds probably. I'm like, whoa, I'm in a different world. And as time went on, you kind of adjust it. But one of the things that my dad did is he always tried to expose me to things. And at that time, I don't know what the connection was, but we came to Oklahoma State room shortly thereafter, and Coach Smith opened the doors, and I just watched. And I loved wrestling. I've always loved wrestling. I just watched these guys wrestle. And it was just a different level of, at the time, anything I'd ever seen. Just the drilling, the pay attention to details. And I was a sponge, and I was watching everything. I was sitting in the corner of the room, and at the end, two guys came up to me, Daniel Cormier and Chris Pendleton. And, Daniel just you guys know Daniel, he's a jokester, right? Came over and just made me feel welcome. You didn't have to do that. And I thought that was really cool. And Chris spent like 10 minutes with me showing me, I was watching him do something, and he spent like 10 minutes showing me some technique. And later in that tournament, I used that technique, and I teched and pinned everybody in the tournament. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Hey, that's pretty good. If that's what wrestling's going to be like, you just learn something and do it, and works right away. It got a little harder as I got older. But Oklahoma State was something that I looked up to as a young kid, and when I was making my decision to go to college, it was a tough decision. I was actually in a car with Coach Smith, and I thought the airport was like 20 minutes away. I was pretty certain it was 20 minutes away. 4 hours later, I got dropped off. And I don't know where we went, and I'm sure Coach probably remembers it, but I think we drove all over Oklahoma. We went to a couple different airports. He told me the flights were delayed and canceled, whatever it is. But it was a tough decision, But my decision to go to Penn State, it was at the time I felt it was the best thing for me, and I developed so many deep relationships there with people. And I believe it set the foundation for who I am as a man, as a father, as a wrestler. I'm forever grateful for everybody that was part of my life there. And it was obviously it was a tough decision to leave, but this is the best decision for me and my family moving forward. This is something that I'm extremely excited for. And when I vision Oklahoma State wrestling, like I said, I envision Oklahoma State is a place that every single recruit wants to come to school. They want to. And now we're on the top of the list. And it's a place because of the administration, the support, the history, the tradition, all of those things. It makes this place extremely unique. And, we have work to do. And I'm excited to get to work. I'm excited to build relationships with the student athletes that we have. I'm excited to build relationships with the future student athletes that are going to choose Oklahoma State. And when we sat down with these guys, they asked me, like, what does your plan look like? And I said, well, my plan is I want wrestlers to come to Oklahoma State because they believe this is a place that they can be the best wrestlers in the country while they're in college. And it's a place they can be the best wrestlers in the world when they're done. And, right off the bat, number one, to me, I think what is a down the road thing for a lot of places, and for us, I believe it's a foundation, is our RTC program. College wrestlers need to understand what it looks like and what it feels like to be around the best people in the world. As a coaching staff, I believe we bring that to the table. But we've got to coach. I think it's important to people to see what it likes to people that are training at that level and what it takes. It's not easy. I mean, to be the best in the world is something that is easily said. I want to be a national champion, be a world champion, be an Olympic champion. It's easy to say, but to do it is different. I mean, you have to make the team, right? Once you make the team, you go overseas and you have to wrestle against all the best, one person from every single country, and you got to beat all those guys. Well, not all of them, 4 of them. And that's what a world champion is, and it's hard. It's something that you can't really understand what that is like until you've been around it. And we're going to have that here. And we want to have a path for the student athletes. They're going to come to Oklahoma State. and win national championships. And when they're done, they have a future. They have a career. If you want to pursue that at the highest level, it has to be your full-time job. So the RTC is a foundation. Our very first order of business is Dayton Fix, staying at the RTC. We're excited about Dayton. I'm extremely excited about helping him, our staff, Jimmy and Thomas, and his goals. And, we sat down and kind of talked about what does it look like for him and surrounded him with people that can help do that. And as we continue to build out the RTC, it's going to be selective with the right group of people. And as our athletes finish, and if they have the same aspirations to be world and Olympic champions, then they're going to have a path and a place to do that. And I think that's important. In today's world, it's not about instant gratification. It's about working towards something. It's about knowing that there's a bigger goal always there. It's always about somebody in the room that can beat you. And that's what we're going to have here. And that's exciting to me to think about. As a competitor, I felt like that was something I was always able to be around. I always was able to seek out the best rooms and the best partners and the best coaches and all of those things. I mean, I've been blessed. One of the best high school coaches, in Jeff Jordan. One of the best collegiate coaches in Cale Sanderson, And I think you take a little bit from everybody and you start to craft your own style. And my style is a unique style of wrestling. And it's about scoring points and having fun. And I think that's something that's really important. We got to remind these kids, wrestling is already really hard. Don't make it any harder than it needs to be. Wrestling's hard. We know that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. And the way that I've always found fun and enjoyment in wrestling is you just try and score more points than your opponent. That's it. Score more points. And if you're up by 1, just keep scoring. Score a couple more. We're up by 7, get to 8, get a major decision. Once you get 8, let's go get 15. Let's get a tech fall. And then we'll start working on pinning the guy. And if you pin the guy before that, the match is over and you can get over on the side and life's a little easier. But we're going to work to score points. We're going to have a system. We're going to have a system of how we get to our tie-ups. How do we get to our leg attacks? How do we finish our leg attacks? When we're on top, what are we going to work on top? We have a system. When we're on bottom, we have a system. And a system is something that you find comfort in, right? When you're nervous and anxious about wrestling, which everyone's going to get there. I'm there. I'm there all the time. But you can find a little bit of comfort in your system. We're going to help develop a system for these kids. But Oklahoma State, it is the place to wrestle. And I'm excited to be a part of that. I'm excited. I'm thankful for the people that were able to make this happen. And I'm excited for the student athletes that are part of this program right now. And I'm excited for the student athletes that choose to wrestle here in the future. And we're going to build something great here. And I just want to say thank you.
You do all right. We are going to take some questions. Just tell me you'll take a few questions.
We've got questions from members of the media. We've got Charlie over there with the microphone in the media. You just raise your hand, and when the microphone comes to you, say your name and your outlet, who you're with, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, David, Robert Allen with Triple Play Sports, sometimes Cowboy Network, and also Pokes Report. You remember the picture that surfaced this week of, I don't know how old you were then. Maybe that was that 8-year-old trip.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you, I talked to Aubrey Snyder, rather, that covers Penn State wrestling. Said she talked to you before the Olympic trials, and she kept asking you about coaching, and you kept saying, "Are you trying to get rid of me?" And she told me this week, she goes, "I didn't think he was going anywhere. That was a surprise." What changed? I mean, other than the result in the Olympic trials, what changed for you?
I mean, I love coaching. I love wrestling. I've spent the last 7 years, building the M2 Training Center with Mark McKnight. And in a short period of time, our club became one of the best clubs in the country. And I think we were able to develop the talent and pour into the kids. And it's something that I always loved, But there's just only a few places that truly have the ability to win at the highest level, and it takes a lot. And I was in my barn. I have my 3 Highland cattle, and I got to talk to you guys about how to get them down here. I know we talked about that yesterday, and a couple of the guys were saying they can help me. got a couple goats and a pig and 10 chickens. But, you know, I was in the back and I got a call, and I'm like, missed call from Oklahoma. Well, I don't know what this would be. And I listen. This athletic director, Chad Weiberg, I'm like, I need to answer this call. I need to call him back. And Oklahoma State's one of those things where it doesn't matter what you're doing, your life goes on pause, and you're going to think about this opportunity because it is one of the opportunities. And that's what changed. You know, we sat down and we talked about it, and you know, these guys were able to. Yeah, I mean, it's just a place that I'm excited to be at, and I think that's what changed. You know, I was at probably the first real crossroads in my life in a long time. You know, I had a pretty clear vision of what we were doing, and you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, this is the time to take a break and see what's next. And you know, after talking with these guys, and we came up with a really good plan and realized this is next. And you know, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
Hey, this is David Bray, Flow Wrestling. Man, quickly, you're able to put a lot of your staff together with Jimmy Kennedy and Thomas Gilman. Do you have plans for the remainder of the staff?
I think it's definitely something that we're considering. We're kind of taking it by case basis and seeing what's best fitting for the program. So, you know, as we figure something out, we'll let you know.
David, again, obviously Cale Sanderson's had a profound impact on your life, as well as everybody involved with Nittany Lion Wrestling Club and the program itself. How much of this is transporting the secret sauce that they've come up with in State College and kind of bringing the secret sauce back to Oklahoma State?
The coaching staff at Penn State, you know, obviously they're much deeper connection than just my coaches. You know, Coach Cale, Coach Casey Cunningham, Coach Cody Sanderson, Coach Farner. I mean, these guys were deeper than just my coaches. You know, they were my family. And, you know, they instilled so many things into me. You know, coaching was part of it. You know, wrestling was part of it. Technique was part of it. But they helped me understand a bigger picture of, you know, how to live your life the best of your ability. And, you know, as an athlete, how to maximize your opportunities, you know. And I think it's a blend. It's a blend of a lot of things. You know, each coach was different, and how they – my relationship with each one of them was different. Great relationships. You know, it's tough. This was one of the toughest days, probably a couple days of my life. You know, I cried a lot. You know, it just is. But like I said, you know, I think being uncomfortable is something that creates really good things. And we're going to create our own little magic down here.
Tyler Waldrop, Tulsa World. You know, you said when you heard Chad's voicemail, you know, you were like, I got to call him back. Life goes on pause. Could you just elaborate a little bit? Did you make the connection that he was calling you about the opening, and sort of what was going through your head during that first conversation with Chad?
We left me a voicemail, and I called him back, and I think we exchanged a couple text messages, and, you know, it's pretty simple. It's like, you know, are you interested in coaching Oklahoma State? I said, well, you know, I'm interested in the right situation with the right resources, in a program that can win. And Oklahoma State, you know, I always believed was that, you know, and after a couple short conversations, I realized it is absolutely that opportunity. And, you know, we just continue to talk through things, and it was great, you know. And I just think, you know, I think a lot of times you think of wrestling as an afterthought at a university. And I think most places it is. And here, that is not the case. You know, it's ingrained. You know, I believe the words he says, this is the heartbeat of this university. And it wasn't I hope it wasn't a trick. But I don't believe it was. I think Coach Smith would wrestle him into the ground if that was the case, and I don't think that yeah, I mean, that you know, just those words, you're like, okay, wow, I thought this was a special place, and then realizing quickly, this is you know, the athletic director that believes in wrestling. Wrestling is important, and I asked him some hard questions about what is it going to look like moving forward, and he was transparent with me, and we talked through what that vision looks like, And it's an exciting opportunity, and I'm extremely grateful. I just kept telling him, man, I'm so honored that you're considering me for this. You could pick anybody you want for this job, and if you believe it, and I told him, I said, if you believe that I'm your guy, then I'm interested. And he said, I believe, you're the guy. So we continue to talk about it, and now we're here, and now I'm wearing orange, and that's gonna be pretty fun.
I apologize. I've got to bolt to do a radio show, so I can't be here for the breakout. And this one's personal. It's a selfish, personal question. I've got 2 grandsons that love the sport here at a very early age. What are your plans for Cowboy Wrestling Club? I know the RTC is important, but growing the future of the sport with the youth. And you've been involved in that with your training center personally.
It's a great question, and I think I remember having a conversation with a high school coach previously, and like, man, my high school team's not doing very well. I'm like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, I see these guys a little bit during the season, and I don't see them until next year. Well, that's pretty tough. You need a grassroots approach. What's your elementary program doing? What's your junior high program doing? What's your high school program doing? Are they wrestling freestyle in the summers? Who's helping with those things? That's a high school job. This job's different. But I believe the same. You need a grassroots approach, and I think in Oklahoma, it's something that Chad Richardson actually talked about, and that's one thing I really enjoyed about him is, man, he's like, I want Oklahoma wrestling to improve. Oklahoma State wrestling improves Oklahoma wrestling. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think, yeah, a grassroots approach is important. It's something I want to be ingrained in the community, and I think having that grassroots approach and these kids understanding, again, man, if I want to be the best, I'm going to come to Oklahoma State. Well, the best way to do that is at a young age, they're a part of that. We got to figure out what that looks like. We got to figure out what that looks like moving forward. But it's definitely, like I said, we got a lot of decisions that we got to make. We got a case-by-case basis, but that's definitely something that we're definitely considering. And what does that look like? We'll let you know when we figure that out.
Seth Duckworth, OWrestle.com. Last month when John retired, he spoke a little bit about his transition from competing to coaching. Expand a little bit, I guess, about that decision for you and what all went into that part.
I knew in 2024 that this was going to be it for me as a competitor. I think after 2021, it was really difficult. I think every decision that I made in my life was to be an Olympic champion. Every decision, starting when I was a kid and we were driving around and we were going to all the tournaments and whatever it is, whatever the best kid in the country was, I was trying to go wrestle them because I wanted to wrestle the best people. So, it took a little bit longer to be an Olympic champion than what I thought. As a kid, my email address was David Taylor 2012. I thought I was going to win the Olympics in 2012. That didn't work. But again, I think that's kind of part of that thing. It's like that delayed gratification. I had to keep working. And I keep working. I thought I was I graduated college, and I thought I'm the best, and this is going to happen. Well, I wasn't, and I lost. I started losing more at that point in my life than I'd lost ever, and some really good people. And but again, being uncomfortable. I had a couple of decisions I had to make. It's the easy way out. It's just like, it's not for me. I'm going to figure something else. And I was like, no, I'm going to double down. I'm going to get better at wrestling. I'm going to figure out what I need to do, and I'm going to fill the gaps, and I'm going to get better. And then, obviously started to have some success. I won my first world championship at 28, I was 28 years old. I think I was the oldest first-time world champion or something like that, which 20 is not that old, but I guess in wrestling it is. And then I got hurt, missed a year. The Olympics were delayed. Then I won the Olympics. And I think that time was just it was very taxing on me. I got to the point where I achieved everything that I wanted, after the Olympics, the next one's kind of 3 years down the road. It's close. I could win a second one, and I just think it's just my inner fire to do that just started to dwindle a little bit, and it showed, right? But I believe in my performance in Olympic trials, it's like, man, how do you feel about that? I'm like, honestly, I'm at peace with it because I did everything I wanted to do in my career, everything and more, and so many people helped me do that. And I'm not at peace with losing. I hate to lose, but you have to, obviously it's at some point, what are you still chasing when you've kind of done everything you want to do? So I think that all of those things I think are going to help me become a better coach. You know, it wasn't just like everything came easy. I think a lot of people just say, "Oh, well, you want to lie? It must have been easy." It wasn't. I mean, there was a lot of hard stuff in there. You know, part about being on the top for a long time is you have to continue to innovate. You have to continue to find ways to get better. And I think obviously overcoming adversity. You know, I think that in losing, it's gonna help me a better coach because I can relate. I can relate when guys lose. It's hard. It's hard and it's painful. And I think that's when you start to realize, okay, well, what is next? And but I think that those times, I was talking to Coach Smith actually about this last night, and it's unless you've really gone down that path at that level, it's really hard to relate to that. Which is why the RTC is important. Which is why being around people that have experienced that is important, because you can share that with people and you can understand and you can exchange that and you can hold people accountable. And you're just so you just start to change. And so I loved coaching, and I just realized that as my career came to an end, I wanted to pour into the next generation of kids, and I believe this is the way that I can do it to the best of my ability. And I believe this is a way that can make a massive impact on the people directly that I'll be working with, but also indirectly in the sport of wrestling. Hopefully we can leave wrestling a better place when my journey's done. My journey as a competitor is done, but my journey as a coach is now just getting started.
Mark Bader with Full Wrestling. What's just the immediate timeline with, getting in there, wrestling with the guys, getting back to PA, moving your families out, all that?
Yeah, it's challenging. We're working through it. We're working through it right now, and it's tough. We need to be down here for the guys on the team, and we're working through what does that look like and closing up the loops back home. And this obviously all did move pretty quickly, and it's important that it did so. So right now, I mean, a lot of these guys are getting ready for U20s and U23s, so we want to help them get ready for that. Dayton is helping us in the short term. Tyler Caldwell is helping us here right now with, continue to have some level of comfort for the kids as they're getting ready to know us. And, we got a lot, we have things that we want to do, but we don't want to, obviously, be respectful for the guys that are getting ready to compete. And then as we move forward into the summer and into the season, obviously coming up. So it is, we're continuing to work on that. And ultimately, the kids on the team are our highest priority, and we're doing what we believe is best for them. No, I just want to say thank you. I walked out to Gallagher Iba, and I haven't competed there before, but I've seen it watched dual meets there, and I looked around. I'm like, this place can get loud. It can get really loud. So we need to fill the seats. We need to fill those seats. We need people in there supporting Oklahoma State wrestling, and we're going to do a job of putting people on the mat that you guys want to watch wrestle. And we're going to go out and we're going to score points, and we're going to have some fun. And this is going to be a fun journey. So the best way, obviously, you can support the program is supporting the program. When we have community events, let's be a part of them. We want to do our best part to be involved in the community. And when we have wrestling events, let's get there. Let's watch. Let's be loud. And let's kick some butt.
Thank you, Coach. That's awesome. Congrats. Let's do something here real quick. So there's something we do around here. It's Go Pokes. Oh, yeah? Can you give us a Go Pokes?
These guys?
Yeah.
When I think about that, I just think about Johnny Hendricks running around the arena. Half of them are booing him, half of them are cheering him on. And I'm like, this dude's nuts, but he's great for wrestling. So, thanks, Johnny.
All right. Thank you, Coach. All right. At this time, we will excuse A.D. Weiberg and our new head coach, along with John Smith, to go to the breakout rooms. Also, Coach Gilman and Coach Kennedy. Let's give them a warm welcome to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Glad you two are here. So let's have I'll excuse that group. You guys go to the breakout rooms, which will be the Cowboy football offensive and defensive rooms down the hall. So let's let those guys get down there, and then I'll release the media and continue to let everybody go here. So what a great turnout. Let's hear it for the new head coach of the Cowboys, David Taylor.